Hey there, welcome to saas.unbound, brought to you by saas.group. I'm your host, Anna Dana, and this is the show where we chat with inspiring founders and experts to get an inside scoop on how they made their business success. And today with me is Neil Emeigh, founder and CEO of Sprios, and its two absolutely awesome products, Rayobyte, an award-winning proxy provider committed to reliability and ethics, and Scraping Robot, a powerful web scraping service. They're fully bootstrapped with a remote team, building great culture, and growing steadily for the last almost 8 years.
Yeah,
seven, 7 and 10
yeah,
months.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay, exciting to see you here.
Oh, thank you, Anna. Thanks for having me.
And well, it's great that this is the second time a colleague refers an amazing founder to me. I'm really, really happy about it because it just gets you a different kind of connection there. So let's get to it. First, maybe let's talk about your background. I mean, it's fascinating. You started building your companies when you were like what, 11 or something like this. Can you get there a little bit?
Yeah, yeah. My first dollar made online, I think I was 14, and I think I'm past
Okay.
the statute of limitations at this point to get in trouble for this, but I had to convince my mom to give me her social security number to open a PayPal account. And she said, "What's this for?" And I lied and said that it was to buy something on eBay because you needed that. But it was actually so I could receive income, which when I'm 14, I didn't think about, oh shit, maybe she needs to pay taxes on that. And so
Oh,
I made hundreds of dollars every year and never told her. She didn't know that income was being made. But yeah, it was doing writing articles then on Fiverr, Fiverr. And that's how I kind of got started.
wow. Okay. Well, from Fiverr to this powerful scraping tool, how did you get there? What was the inspiration?
Yeah, so from the Fiverr days, there was a very, very popular internet marketing IM forum called Warrior Forum, and
Mhm.
that's how I kind of got I got sucked into this guru vortex where there's these guys on there, and I'm so susceptible to it. The internet is still kind of newish, and internet marketing's newish, and there's people who are posting these beautiful copy landing pages saying make all this money, pyramid schemes, and all these things. And I just got sucked into it and loved it. And I was writing articles, finding different small ways to make money, affiliate sites kind of being one of my go-tos. And as I kept evolving in that area, I started getting more towards I started affiliate sites, and then I moved
Mhm.
into doing SEO for those affiliate sites. And so then I started learning in the world of SEO, search engine optimization. And then as I was doing my own sites, I'm like, oh, shouldn't I just sell these SEO services to other people? And this is back in the day, this is, gosh, dates me, but 15 years ago when you could rank
Mhm.
overnight on Google by posting a few blog comments on a site saying, hey, check out my
Yeah.
site. And Google overnight would just rank you number one. And so I was kind of in that area of SEO and using a lot of different SEO tools, proxies, scraping my search engine rankings to see how the SEO was working. And through the end of high school and into college, I was kind of staying there. And then towards the end of college, I kept running into problems with my proxies I was using. And I was like, gosh, I tried competitor after competitor and they all sucked. And so I said, I was going to make my own proxy company. And I posted a job on Elance at the time. Again, that dates me because they've been acquired from Upwork. And I
Yeah.
got kicked off in 2015.
Okay. All right. That's quite a story. I mean, but still, you chose kind of a more sustainable way to get there. You actually worked and you evolved from just writing articles to SEO to then trying different products and then building your company and going to college. Because we were talking a lot here about like the whole bootstrapping and like founder mentality and like how you, oh, I don't need that. College is overrated. I'll just jump into
Yeah.
building product right away. So you chose a bit of a more traditional route there.
Yeah, right, right. My ROI on my hourly rate probably isn't the best when I consider the hundreds of hours to get to this point when, the versus on the bootstrap route versus raising the money.
Yeah.
But yeah, it worked. It turned out.
Yeah, yeah. Okay. All right. So what was the you said you posted a job on a website trying to find a co-founder, or like what were you trying to
Yeah,
do?
yeah, that was on. So that was the Warrior Forum again. That was kind of one of the earlier businesses, you could say. And I was probably 15. No, no, no. I was probably pushing closer to like 17 in high school. And I was really getting into the SEO services and different automations and things I was offering. And I was like, gosh, I just really need a programmer. I was programming. I knew how to do some very basic programming, but I kind of needed to level up on some ideas I had. And so I posted on this Warrior forum and I said, hey, like again, naive kid, like, hey, just
Yeah.
looking for like, and I look back at these posts, I have some of them and it's just like this terrible, terrible grammar, terrible. I was like so embarrassed, like, oh my gosh. But I say like, hey, looking for somebody to help me out with some programming and I posted that, and then I found another thread in like the same area. This guy like had posted two similar, but on the opposite. He said, "Hey, I'm a programmer, and I don't have any business ideas. I need a visionary to come." Basically, is what he was saying. And I'm like, "Oh, I got plenty of ideas." So I reached out to him, and
Yeah.
he was. I was 17. He was a college professor for computer science out in North Carolina, and so it was like a remote thing, and we worked together. We built kind of this product together that kind of had a good stream of money, maybe $1,000 a month. And it was good enough. It was pretty passive, and we worked
Mhm.
together for maybe a year and a half together on this project together. And we took a trip to Hawaii. It was the first time we met each other. We
Oh wow.
we it was all remote. We never Skyped or anything like that. Skype obviously was back then. And we said, yeah, sure, let's do a trip to Hawaii, and we met each other there. And yeah, it was just kind of a surreal thing. It just kind of worked out for both of us, and then we both went our separate ways, and it wasn't like really taking off then.
Wow, that's a wild story. Okay. Were you trying to like at first say that you're older or something? Like cuz you
I
were just a
never, I
kid?
no, I don't know if that ever got brought up. Honestly, like I'm trying to recall
Okay.
like the extent of our conversations, and I don't know. It was just kind of like a transactional partnership of
Was he like, "Oh,
sorts.
I thought you were 40," and you're just like,
Yeah, right,
"Hey,
right.
here's me in my backpack."
Yeah, I didn't know how old he was, and like he's like we were
Okay.
looking for each other at the airport, and he's like, yeah, I'm wearing this type of shirt or something, and I found him like, oh shit, I did not like I never seen a picture of him, never Skyped him or anything. We had a
Oh,
blast
wow.
in Hawaii. It's nuts.
That's super cool.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, and fast forward to maybe to these days, right? You have a pretty big team right now, and everyone's remote. So I guess that's the just the setting that you were pushing from the very beginning. Was it,
Yeah.
by the way, difficult because like you started obviously before COVID? Was it difficult to find people who would go for a remote setting, or was it like the ultimate flexibility that you offered that nobody else was offering at the time, and something that maybe pushed you and gave you an advantage of hiring better people?
Yeah. We it was we'd been remote from 2015, started remote the company officially through 2018, and I moved back to my hometown, Nebraska, Lincoln, Nebraska. And it was then when I was like, you know what, I've been working remote long enough. It'd be nice to see what it'd be like to be in an office environment. You're on collaborative
Mhm.
whiteboards. You feel the energy of people. And so we started an office in Lincoln, and then moved into a bigger one through, well, technically we closed it down at the beginning of this year. So we started at the end of 18, which is, convenient time as COVID came around, and a year from
Mm.
then, well, basically. And so it was working. We were growing our local presence, but we had always been remote. And so when COVID came, especially, uh, it was an easy transition. Our whole internal processes were all remote based because most of our team is still international. And so to answer your question on the other side of it, was it a value add sell when we were hiring people, since we've always been remote? and we mostly hire outside the US, or we always had it. For me, it just kind of felt default, but I guess for some people, it could have been a new thing back in 15, 16, 17. For us, it was just we posted a job and said this is remote and people apply. So I never thought about it anyways.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Because like now, a lot of people say that, we actually started remote uh, from the very beginning, and like COVID never changed anything for us. So now, like when we are talking about the whole craze of like luring people back to the offices, we're like,
Yeah.
never did it, then,
Yeah.
never going
Yeah.
to.
Right.
So
Right.
for us, it's just another, yeah. Okay. So maybe let's talk about the way you operate, right? Because something that I noticed right away when I went to the website uh, was that you have support 24/7. And that was kind of like, huh, okay. And there's like a real person 24/7 that you can reach out to. They will answer your questions. And with the rise of AI, especially, it kind of that feels surreal already, right?
Yeah.
Actually
Yeah.
having a real
Right.
person there.
Right.
So like when did you decide that that was crucial for you? What does it solve to you? And are you going to move on with AI at some point or keep a real person there?
Yeah. Yeah. It started from day one. It was when I started the company. We were, for context, I'd been doing, again, back in 2015 is my last semester of college, and I was doing maybe $1,500 a month in some SEO services, and it was enough to get by as a bachelor in a small town in Nebraska, to live off of that, to
Mhm.
keep experimenting with things. And then I came up with the proxy idea, like, wow, there's no good proxy providers and all their service sucks too. And I said, why don't I start it? And in the first 3 months, that last semester of my college, we went from $0 to $100,000. And then year
Mhm.
one of 2016, it was like 1.1 million. And so it was just like a shock to the system, like, oh my gosh, what are we doing here? And one thing I always knew
Yeah.
from the very beginning in the proxy field, we're at the lowest level in the infrastructure layer for the data gathering stack. So you have proxies, and then you have scraping stack on top of that. And then that's fed into data science teams, who then probably feed it into something that actually goes to an end customer, provides that end value, like a flight search engine, or your
Mhm.
Amazon price comparison tools. So we're very at the bottom, and because of that, you need dang near 100% uptime, because if a proxy's offline, it breaks the entire stack. So then everyone's coming from the top down saying, hey, why isn't this working? And they go, why isn't this working? It comes down to us. And so we always needed this idea of 24/7. So back in 15, and still to this day, we've targeted, we didn't start like day one, but I would do support 10 hours a day. And then eventually, midway through year one, I hired somebody in Asia time zone to cover the other side of it. He would do 10 hours a day. So we already had 20 hours just from two people. And now over time, we've grown into shift work and stuff. But to address your point on AI, definitely we have to leverage that for the things that AI can do extremely well. But definitely today, anyways, the transactional, like, help me with my order, when's my order coming, or give me a refund, things like that. I still have this optimist side of me, of there's going to be some value. I don't think companies have figured it out yet, but I still find there's going to be value for companies to provide that human touch to the support. What
Mhm.
that looks like, I hate to speculate right now, but it's good to see a face. And I think AI is going to drive us more and more to a world of transactions. And that, I think, people can differentiate themselves if they bring a personal touch to their interactions with customers.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. No, we discuss that here a lot too. And so far, every other founder just says, AI is great and absolutely let's leverage it, but let's outsource like some let me Google it for you kind of questions.
Yeah.
But everything that, that requires that personal touch and that kind of, requires the person on the other side to know what you're going through, then maybe let's keep a person there.
Yeah. Yeah. Right. Right.
Yeah. All right. Okay. So another thing that also I noticed, and also maybe I noticed it because we started talking about it. with our team, with our central team, marketing team at SaaS Group, is building topic authority. And then I started researching about you and Rayobyte and everything that you do. And I went to your blog and it was like, okay, well, that is just gold, because like everything you want to know about scraping in every aspect of it is there. So how did you decide that content marketing is going to be something that you will double down on, and this is something that maybe will differentiate you from other scraping tools? I mean, we also own a scraping tool, as you know.
Yeah.
So also, of course, this is one of our strategies. Content is everything. We want to showcase all the scenarios, all the possible use cases where, it's a great tool. But yeah, how did it come to you? And are you using your own scraping for SEO for your content?
Well, I'm embarrassed to keep this brand alive, but prior to, it was about a year ago now at this point, we rebranded so that when the company formed in 2015, our name was Blazing SEO, which is, again, one of those things where you're like, oh,
Wonderful.
geez, what were you thinking? Yeah. And I asked my attorney at the time, which I didn't really know much about that stuff either. I'm like, what do you think of this name? He's like, I don't know. I'll file the paperwork. I'm like, okay, I guess that was a yes. So again, because that comes from my SEO background, and when I started selling proxies, I was mostly using proxies for SEO purposes. And so I'm like, okay. And I knew people, I knew communities, I was in Skype groups. And so I that was my target market. And so when I started the proxies, I just posted in these channels and I said, hey, anyone need proxies for SEO stuff? And everyone's like, yeah, sure. We don't have any loyalty to these other crappy providers. We'll use you. And so Blazing SEO was the brand up until embarrassingly a year ago. There's a lot that goes into a rebranding. It's not just changing a logo and a name. There's back end code, there's front end code, there's customer support, there's your emails and how you forward things from old emails and closing down. I mean, it's just, there's so much. And we finally made the effort and rebranded to Rayobyte. But because, back to your question, I'm like, how did content marketing come into all this? With my background in SEO, that's been our main channel of traffic. And obviously it's public data to see where we rank by using a tool like SEMrush or Ahrefs. And we're up there, if not beating the number one competitors in our market in terms of keyword ranking and search volume and stuff like that. So that's always been our bread and butter, and we focus a lot on that in both our brands, of Rayobyte and Scraping Robot. Do we use scraping for our own purposes? I wouldn't say necessarily directly. Those tools today, like the SEMrushes and all your other niche tools, are using scraping. So I guess by indirectly we're using it, but I wouldn't say specifically for our content strategy, we're not using like Scraping Robot itself for our content strategy.
Mm-hmm. Okay. All right. Well, just one question before we go back to rebranding, because like on LinkedIn and it's all over it, right? Including from like thought leaders like Rand Fishkin, right? SEO is dead, or SEO is going to be dead tomorrow. So many posts about it. It doesn't move the needle anymore, or like you don't have to spend so much time and budget on SEO because there are other things that you should double down on. What do you think about it? Like, what is it? Some kind of a buzz? What is it about? How are you fighting it in any way?
Yeah, we've had an interesting past year or two ourselves trying to crack the code on how to, from being top or some days the top on our rankings and our against our competitors, to like, how do we really get ahead of them? And we just kind of like stagnated, and that's been kind of challenging. That aside, there's a lot of context that goes under the gurus saying that, and respectfully, I love Rand Fishkin as well too. SEO as it was yesterday is dead. As it was back in 2015 when I started, or 15 years ago when I was just creating backlinks and making up, there's every day it's dead. I mean, in a corny way to say that. So yes, with AI and how Google's going to start ranking websites, it's just going to change. But nevertheless, you're going to have some way people want to find information about a company, and they they need to search somewhere. So Google will forever exist, but now you have SEO for ChatGPT. You have AI SEO. That's, how do you start getting into these AI models and what they're recommending to customers when someone's asking, hey, I don't know how to scrape. Can you provide me some tools and resources? How are you the first company that ChatGPT is the one that responds to? So that's it. That's, I think that's just keeping up with the times as things have changed 15 years ago till now. AI will greatly change that. For us, as it exists very to this day, in just the last couple months, we had a new strategy we just put out that just, I think our keywords are up like 25% or something, and it's sustaining over a month. So the idea that there's nothing you can do to change it today, I don't subscribe to that, but there's a lot of nuance behind where I do agree with that.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I mean, sure, like now companies and like websites that have been around for a few years and have been doing great with SEO, they still have this like advantage over the new kids that are trying to like break into SEO. And obviously, yeah, there is no way you can break into it like it's 2015. Absolutely. But to say that it's like completely dead, I don't know. And for us, again, like looking at just the range of companies at saas group, yeah, no, I cannot back it up 100%.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right. Okay. Well, let's go to rebranding because that's a fun topic. Blazing SEO is dead.
Yes,
And
yes.
now,
Get that off of the search queries. We don't want to
yeah,
we don't want the algorithms to hear you say that more, because then it'll just keep popping up.
yeah, that's true. So, Rayobyte, it is now. Well, obviously, you didn't like the name. That's one. How did it go for you with the rebranding? What was the most challenging part? How did you communicate it with your customers and with your team too? How did you get to Rayobyte? Why the name? And yeah, how does it work for you now? Because like obviously you abandoned this one name and you probably well dropped in the ranks too. So yeah, how did it go? What were the challenges?
One of the greatest challenges is that my personality type on different personality tests is philosopher is what some of the tests define it as. And so the problem with that is I can just keep thinking about like, oh, what about this? What about this? And I hesitate. Oh, I don't know if I like this name. I don't know if I like this name. And
Mm,
so we spent a lot of iterations. This was before ChatGPT came out and could give you 1,000 synonyms to
yeah.
brainstorm on too. Gosh, that would have been helpful. But finally, eventually, we one stuck out to us, Rayobyte, and the how it is built is Rayo. Rayo's theorem is a mathematical theory that is the largest conceivable number that you can think of. At least this is my interpretation of the theory. And so if your mind can think of 1 billion, well, Rayo's number is 1 billion and one. If you can conceive of 100 trillion million, then it's plus one. And so we took the idea of Rayo and then put it with byte to communicate the message to our customers in a way that we offer proxies, we offer scraping, we're allowing you to collect data, collect bytes, an unlimited basically amount of data that can be collected. So that's
That's
what
pretty
went
cool.
behind the name. Yeah. We're proud of, and it rolls off the tongue in most languages, and it's easily spelled and pronounced. And
Yeah.
so yeah. So that's how we came to the name. As that was one of the greater challenges. And then, as I was saying earlier, we couldn't have predicted the amount of work that would go into. We knew it would be a lot, but you just start finding different systems integrate with different things. You have old point of contacts, old places you're signed up with this email, and it's just a logistical nightmare. And we had a brilliant guy on our team, Isaac, who's head of our marketing department. He's just brilliant in project managing, and it was project managing every function in the company. Like, hey,
Mm,
how do you work with the old Blazing SEO? What needs to be changed? And we need to do it in a way that we weren't still communicating Blazing SEO at the same time as Rail, but it wasn't like overnight change our logo and domain and we're done. It's like so many things underneath it. And so it's a forewarning, but I'm so to others who are considering that, but I'm so happy we did it. So if you know you don't feel you don't resonate with your brand anymore, carve the time out and get planned and find yourself an Isaac Coleman. Definitely.
Okay, well that's a great advice. Difficult, but maybe doable. All right. Well, I like the name and the story behind it. I think it's just brilliant. All right. Well, since you started talking about the team and the culture that you have there, and maybe also the fact that you're a solo founder, let's throw it in there too. I've read a few of your blog posts and you talk about the way you're building your culture within the company and the way you are building yourself into becoming a leader of the company, and how many challenges there are, and how you have to deal with the expectations from the team, and then the team has to deal with the expectations from you and the managers and the customers and everything. So what is the ultimate value that you're trying to create for the team, and how do you address it yourself?
One of Spreeus's core values is
Yeah.
self-actualization, and it's a term from Abraham Maslow. What one can be, one must be. And he empirically studied. He's an American psychologist that studied human motivation, essentially. And he came to this conclusion of what a human believes they can be. They have this motivation inside of them that they know that they must go do that. And so we really embody that as much as possible with the strong asterisks that it's not the concept is not a more idea. It's not that you have to keep excelling. It's you stepping back individually. Everyone is unique to ourselves. To ask, what do I think I can really be? And then we encourage you to go out and do that. For me, I like doing triathlons. That's me. That's what I like. But other people, what they can be is different than that. Maybe they want to be a great painter. They know they can. They have a creative ability to do that. And if they know that, we want to encourage, okay, what are you doing this week to embody that? And they may, and it's a coaching moment. So, well, I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
Well, maybe go buy yourself a canvas and just make your first brush stroke. And, that's the environment we try creating. So that's what the value I want to provide to our team most of all, I think.
Okay. And I know that you're doing a great job in like bringing people together, even though you're all remote, is you have your little challenges every month, right? So what is it this month?
This month, my goal was to do 100K of running, 100 kilometers of running. I'm a little behind on that. I've been doing more biking though, which I've been appreciative of. But that's my goal. That's my monthly challenge. And so for the others, that last month is probably the best context I can share. Is we had a push-up challenge, and in this challenge, we had two forerunners that were. I think one ended around 50,000 push-ups in a given month, and
Oh
then
God.
the second place person was in the 30s as well too. And so they blew past 1 and 2, and then we had a bunch of, dare I say, average guys trying to fight for this more reasonable, less inhuman third
Yeah.
place ranking, which is very hard for me because I'm very competitive. And coming up on the last 2 days, I hurt my shoulder, and it still hurts 2 weeks later. And
Oh
I had
no.
to throw in a towel and give someone the. But these are obviously physical that I'm talking about. But other people, one last month, one guy in our team, he admits and he publicly shared that he said, I have a really bad problem biting my fingernails. Like really bad, like where he's biting around it. He's like, and he has to usually put like the kind of like chemical stuff that makes it taste bad. And he's like, this month I'm gonna track how many days I don't chew my fingernails. And so like, the goal is never what we communicate. It's never to be perfect. It's if you just get one check mark on this Excel sheet we build out, you should be proud of that because you're making a step into being all that you can be. What one can be, one must be. So yeah, there's many ideas that people have. This month for me is the running, but also journaling in the morning again. I've kind of gotten out of my routine that I journal every morning. So I'm trying to hold myself accountable to doing that more often in the mornings.
That's super cool. We had a health challenge sometime over summer, maybe even the entire summer. I'm a little blurry on that. I wasn't a very um, big participant because I had a lot going on. But it was really cool. And at first, everyone was like, "Okay, I need to lose weight," and everyone had like a goal to lose weight. But then, as we were going through it, it adjusted to like more, I wouldn't say realistic, but more like personal things, as in,
Mm-hmm.
no, I don't actually need to lose weight. I need to just walk more, or I need to
Yeah.
sleep more and eat more healthily, and all that stuff. So, like this very generic health challenge just became your own personal goal that you could actually relate to. And it was a lot of fun. And if you lost to yourself, obviously, you had to donate, like, I think it was like €50 to your favorite charity. So we did it.
No, oh, no. Nice. Oh,
So
good. That
I
is nice.
lost.
And you did. Well, hey, the
I
world still
did.
gets better.
Yeah.
And you make a good point about it not being, when you talk about weight loss, that's a goal a lot of times. And I don't say it can be an external goal that you're focusing so much on a number. Whereas if you turn
Yeah.
internally and ask us, why am I trying to lose weight? What does it mean to me? What does
Mhm.
weight gain and weight loss meant to me in my life? And those are the internal reflections that, maybe it isn't about that number you're trying to meet, but maybe you need to eat healthier,
Yeah.
which will result in weight loss. And maybe
Mhm.
you've had a bad relationship with food and how you consume and cook food, and it changes the narrative. So I
Yeah,
appreciate
yeah,
hearing that.
absolutely. Sure. All right. Well, let's talk about your personal founder's journey, right? You mentioned triathlon you're doing, and I know that you're also training for Ironman, right? And well, and throughout this 8 years, you're the only founder. You're the ultimate person to make decisions. Um, so how does it feel? Because again, a few solo founders on this podcast, a few challenges that they've shared, and a few ways to like find a community or like share their ideas with some other founders. What is it for you, like how to be healthy in this journey, like how to maintain mental health throughout this very consuming, very difficult situation when you're a solo founder?
Yeah, yeah. Two things come to mind. One, a bit more tactically, but has led to emotional, spiritual growth, is an organization called EO, Entrepreneurs Organization. It's a global organization, tens, if not hundreds of thousands of people. And the criteria is you have to be majority owner of a business that does at least $1 million in revenue. So for any other
Mm,
founders out there listening, if you meet that criteria, that's it. The framework and process they have in the organization, and then you eventually get into what kind of a local forum, a local chapter, um, over decades of very smart people contributing to building this framework out, has this led to so much of my growth and support. And what you're working with is, well, if other people meet that criteria, you're also with other
mhm,
majority owner founders of successful businesses. And so you get to share with them in a group in a very protected, confidential setting about the challenge you're facing. And then the group responds in resonance, not advice, and they give you the resonance and say, hey, I have an experience share. Here's what happened to me. And it's on me to take that away. It's not people saying you should do this. Advice is strictly off the table. And so just hearing other people's experience that relate to challenges I face has made me feel less alone, as you brought up the
mhm,
word kind of community. And then the other side of it is uh, well, it's a philosophy, Stoicism. I found Stoicism back in 2018, and the practicality of that philosophy really has resonated with me to handle challenges. And one of the ones that sticks out most to me in this context is Marcus Aurelius. He's one of the most famous Stoics, and he writes in his book Meditations. He describes essentially that uh, his role in life that was given to him by nature. It's their form of a higher power of sorts. Nature wanted him to be an emperor, and he writes to himself. He says, "I didn't want to be an emperor. I wanted to be a philosopher, and that was kind of the thing. He wanted to be an actual philosopher, but he said nature is commanded, and this is what I'm on this planet to do, and so I'm going to do it well. And so I
Mm.
use that a lot to remind myself. I think so far I've led a successful company of people I really appreciate working with, and I remind myself I couldn't just go sit back in my programming IDE and just write code all day in a lone box by myself. I think I have something more to give to the world. And today, anyways, it's being CEO of the company.
That's really cool. Thank you. Thank you for sharing this. And I think I first heard about this organization about, I don't know, 2 weeks ago, maybe 3 weeks
Oh,
ago. A friend told me about it when I mentioned that I was going to Nepal to my trekking trip, and I was like, well, how cool would it be like to have a few founders there to join and
yeah,
to have this kind of, again, a little community to like where you network and you talk about like what you're building, how you're doing it. And he was like, well, they do this, and sometimes there are trips, and there was one to Nepal maybe like 5 years ago or so. And I was like, okay, maybe I have to reach out to them, see how they're doing. I
yeah. We
know.
just like our local forum trip went to the Philippines this last year, and
Okay.
prior to that, I got there earlier with one other guy, and we reached out to the Philippines chapter, which is then business leaders in the Philippines. So we met with them for a night out and some drinks and stuff, and then we met up with our local chapter there and did like a retreat. And so yeah, it's a
Oh,
global
wow.
community. Wherever you go, most major cities is likely to have a chapter, and they're welcome. We love being around other founders of similar caliber because we know we get each other. And so it's, if someone reached out to
Yeah.
me and said they're here in the Netherlands, I'd be like, sure, I would love to meet up with you. So yeah, you get the idea.
Great. Okay. All right. Well, just one more question about like the business itself, because web scraping is a gray area for, I guess, a lot of people, and with the like a lot of unknown, I guess, involved in it. Sometimes it has like a really bad tone to it when people talk about it. So what and when I was also preparing for the episode, that was actually in the intro, right? You're a proxy provider committed to reliability and ethics, right? So how are you fighting that narrative, and how the whole like legal and ethical side of the business is something that you're trying to bring some light to?
Yeah. Well, as the news corporations of the world will do, they focus on the sexy criminal
Yeah.
headlines over the good. The negativity reigns supreme. And so, especially in the proxy field, again, the most infrastructure level, proxy providers are known for people, they're called botnets, or people are installing malware on your computer and using your malware to do hacking. And that's the illegal definition of what a proxy can do. But a proxy also, again, supports the infrastructure layer that powers scraping companies who then power other companies. And so it's trying to get as much positive messaging out on the good of it, and where we turn to just consumers of the world who may see these bad headlines and say, how could you possibly be doing this and being in this industry and supporting it? We
Mhm.
turn and we ask them, we say, have you ever used a flight search engine before, like Skyscanner or Google Flights? Have you ever Googled before? Because at the end of the day, Google is a massive scraper. They scrape the entire world. And for anyone who would be seeing any information about scraping likely has internet access, and they've likely Googled before. And so that's like the most profound one to say, okay, yeah, I've Googled before. Google is a scraping company. And so you don't think about that when then the sex sells title is like proxy company was part of a major botnet that hacked some website and caused a lot of damage. And so we're trying to fight that narrative. What we do on the product side, there is the type of proxies and IP addresses we provide can be acquired unethically and definitely illegally. Illegally is like the malware side of stuff. Obviously, none of us, or at least most legitimate competitors aren't doing that. But there's a fine line between illegal and then ethical and unethical in between there. And you can acquire IPs in a way that isn't illegal on the legal side of things, but it's definitely not what we subscribe to. And so we have a, not to get too technical, but we spend a lot of time making sure that all the IPs and the people who we are using their IP addresses know and consent. Yes, I know you're doing this. I know you're using this for scraping. I'm okay with that. I'm signing off on this. And as long as there's complete consent, we feel confident in what we're doing.
Okay, thank you. I think it's very important to communicate that. All right. Well, just a couple more questions, and first one is about a hack. Well, just I guess just because we talked about it already, right? About building your topic authority and just building such a great library of content and communicating so well each case scenario with your customers. Is there a hack that you're using to do that, to I don't know, to maybe find the best topics or to find the best length, I don't know, headings or whatever it is that really attracts your customers and your users to your content?
For us specifically, this is very contextual just to our industry. What we can see on the network level of people who use our proxies or scraping is we can see what domains they're connecting to. And so we just have a whole network log of
Mhm.
thousands, tens of thousands, maybe hundreds of thousands of domains we see people are connecting to. From there, we can use that to generate ideas. Say, why did they connect to Walmart.com? And we can start then doing our market research to say, why would someone need scraping for Walmart.com? And now you start finding all kinds of content ideas, and now you start building out your content styles about scraping said site. And so that's unique to us, I think, as thinking about like the other people and other businesses, using that internal data, understanding what your customers are using as the source of inspiration. As
Mhm.
because if those customers are already paying you, it's already implying that, okay, if they're using it for this use case, there's other people out there that are also looking for that same use case, however they're using your product or tool. So I think that would generalize our strategy.
Okay. Well, that's cool. Thank you. Thank you for sharing. I think, yeah, that's a great advice. And one question that I always ask is, what has been so far the biggest win and the biggest failure for you as a founder or for either of the companies?
We made a lot of dumb decisions on following I'm like, oh, let's create 100 different ideas and let's go here. So it's, I've yanked us around in too many different ways. And so I've cost the company a lot of money just by that philosopher personality type. But
Okay.
that aside, that's not what I usually think about. It's, I think, part of learning and growing. Now I'm a little bit more focused as an individual than I was back then. But one of my greatest failures I always remember is it was back in, I think it's 2019, 2018. I'll never forget it. There's three people who are very close to me in life and had worked with the company for many years. Throughout the course of an 8-hour day at the office, this is all people at the office, three different people came to me in tears, all completely separate instances. The first one came to me and said, "Hey, Neil, in short," she basically said, I just don't like how you're treating me. You're kind of being an asshole." And I just kind of chalked it off. I'm like, she's having a bad day, whatever, moving on. Next person comes and I'm like, same kind of things. Like, I didn't like how you talked to me the other day. I feel like this is how we're communicating more and more. And I still, like, my ego was still like, whatever. We were growing super fast then. I mean, we probably added 40% to our head count that year. And so I was just like, focused business, results. And then finally, towards the end of the day, a third person, one of the closest I'm to, came to me and just weeping, just like, I don't know. I don't think you're respecting me. I just don't like how this is going. And after that person left, I just like shut the door and I just started crying. It was like it needed three punches to really just like to shake me out of this headspace I was in. And from that point, again, it's probably end of 2018, I really stepped back and asked myself, what kind of leader do I want to be? I was driving results, business results, money, and we were growing, headcount, revenue, everything's growing, but I had no emotional intelligence. And that's not a default for me. I'm a computer science graduate. And so I can only think in terms of code and binaries and ones and zeros. I don't think about the human personality. And so that it's still not a default to this day. And I'll fall back I'll fall back to those tendency, and it's something, a muscle I have to train to be a more compassionate leader. So that was one of my greatest challenges anyways, and it was a bit of a tangent.
Oh wow, thank you for sharing them. And what was the biggest win?
One of the biggest wins, I would say, is pretty recent. I hate to have recency bias, but I think it's the truth of it. We pivoted as a company from a certain type of proxy, data center proxies, which is our cash cow, and we definitely consider we're the best at that in the industry. But we
Mhm.
saw where the trends were and are going with that, where more and more use cases, scraping use cases, can't use data center IPs as effectively. And so more and more companies are changing to this new model, which is residential proxies, which have been around for a long time. We never entered that because of those ethical reasons before. We couldn't see a way to ethically acquire millions of residential IPs. And from what we saw with the other competitors, there was proof that they were acquiring it unethically. So we're like, oh, there's our proof. There's no way we can get into this. And as we saw the death of data center, we're calling it the static IPs, we really just spent a lot of time. Okay, we got to figure this out. There has to be a way to do this. And through enough grit, we started back in 2000, end of 2019. And now our residential product line we shifted resources about a year ago. Also, that was a big change. We about 40% of our staff, we just said, we're moving it over. So there's a book called from Christensen. I forget his full name, Innovator's Dilemma. And it talks about companies. It's so tempting to keep working on your cash cow. You can't prioritize R&D, even though you know your cash cow is eventually going to die. It's so difficult. And we just overnight, we just flipped all 40, 50% of our staff over to this new product line, placing that gamble. This was about a year ago. And this year we're just seeing this tremendous, like 20% month over month growth. And it's not slowing down either. So I'm really proud of that. I'm really proud of our team just willing to lean into that. And we're seeing the results of it now. So it's pretty exciting times.
Awesome. All right. Well, it's great to see how you guys are growing. I mean, scraping is something I'm very new to. I mean, Scraper API was the first probably scraping go, or well, maybe not the first, right? That I kind of well encountered, right? I just never knew they were scraping,
Yeah, right.
but
Right.
still the first one I learned was doing that. So learning more and actually having this like very honest conversation about what it takes to build it and how you're doing it is really great. So thank you for sharing it.
Yeah, yeah, you're welcome.
Thanks. All right. Well, I'm excited to see where you're going next year and how the company's going to grow. So hopefully we can do it again sometime. So thank you, Neil, so much for being on the show and take
Thank
care.
you. Thank you, Anna. Thank you, SAS Group. Appreciate you all.